The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city in shades of orange and purple. As Officer William parked his patrol car by the roadside, his eyes scanned the street, catching sight of a sleek black sedan cruising down the road. The driver, a well-dressed black man, appeared calm and composed. Yet William's instincts, or rather his biases, kicked in. He signaled the car to pull over. Jack, the driver, raised an eyebrow but complied without hesitation. He brought his car to a smooth stop and rolled down his window, his polite smile meeting the officer's steely gaze. "Evening, officer," Jack greeted. "Is there a problem?" William adjusted his belt, his demeanor stiff. "License and registration." Jack handed over the documents without a word. William studied them briefly, then leaned closer. "You look out of place around here." Jack's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," William replied, his tone laced with disdain. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" "I live here," Jack said, his voice steady. "May I ask what I did wrong?" "Routine check," William snapped. "Step out of the car." A few passing motorists slowed down, their curious glances adding to the growing tension. Jack, still calm, exited the vehicle. William began a meticulous, almost theatrical search of the car, ignoring Jack's repeated inquiries about the reason for the stop. The crowd thickened, murmurs rippling through the onlookers. Jack stood tall, his posture radiating quiet dignity despite the humiliation. Finally, William straightened up and faced Jack. "Where are you headed?" he demanded. "Home," Jack replied, nodding toward a street just a block away. "Right around the corner." William's expression tightened. "How do you live in this neighborhood?" "Someone like—" His voice trailed off as he noticed a flicker of change in Jack's composed expression. "Someone like what?" Jack asked softly, his eyes locking onto William's. "Someone like me? Someone of my skin?" For the first time, William hesitated. He fumbled to regain his authority, scrawled down Jack's registration number, and muttered, "I'll be keeping an eye on you." Then with a dismissive wave, he signaled Jack to leave. Jack slipped back into his car and drove away without another word, leaving William with a self-satisfied smirk. Little did he know his actions had set off a chain of events that would come crashing down on him sooner than he could imagine. The next morning, William strolled into the precinct, oblivious to the storm brewing. He barely had time to settle at his desk when he was summoned to the chief's office. Straightening his uniform, he knocked on the door and stepped inside. Behind the desk sat Jack, now in a sharp suit, his demeanor calm but commanding. William froze, recognition dawning on his face. Jack's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. "Officer William," Jack began, his voice measured. "Have a seat." William obeyed, his earlier bravado replaced with unease. Jack leaned forward, his hands clasped on the desk. "Last night, you pulled over a man driving through his own neighborhood," Jack said. "That man was me. Do you recall the incident?" William's mouth opened, then closed. He nodded stiffly. "Good," Jack continued. "Now let's discuss your conduct." Jack opened a thick file on the desk in front of him, flipping through its pages. "This," Jack said, tapping the file, "is a record of your complaints: excessive force, racial profiling, and abuse of authority." William shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I was just doing my job." "Your job," Jack interrupted, his voice firm. "Your job is to serve and protect. Instead, you chose to humiliate and discriminate. That stops today." Jack leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Officer William, effective immediately, you are suspended pending a full investigation. Turn in your badge and firearm." William's face flushed with anger and disbelief. "You can't." "I can," Jack interjected, his tone unwavering. "And I just did." As William reluctantly handed over his badge and gun, Jack rose from his seat, his gaze unwavering. "This isn't personal. It's about accountability. This precinct and this city deserve better." William left the office in silence, the weight of his actions finally sinking in. For Jack, it was his first day in office as the new chief of police, and already a step toward holding those in power accountable and dismantling the biases that continued to plague society. In the days that followed, Jack immersed himself in his work. His mornings began early, poring over files detailing complaints and reviewing the conduct of officers under his command. His afternoons were spent in meetings with community leaders, listening to their concerns and brainstorming ways to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the public. Determined to change the perception of those in power, Jack made it clear that accountability and fairness would be the cornerstones of his leadership. Jack's commitment resonated with the community. Slowly, a sense of cautious optimism began to take root. Jack knew the road ahead would be long, but he was steadfast in his mission to create a department that truly served and protected all citizens, regardless of race or background.